Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Daily version of the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast. Does that even fit anymore? Ordinary Daily? I mean, I haven't done a podcast since Thursday. Thursday? Yeah, that was getaway day, Thursday. It is now Tuesday. Look, guys, I apologize. When I'm away, it's just, I had all good intentions. I brought my computer, I brought my GoPro, my camera. I had everything. I put it all in one bag. I'm like, this is my media bag. I'm good to go. And never opened it once. All vacation. I think it's just, you got to live the moment sometimes too. You can't always be on social media. You can't always be, doing podcasts and video and stuff like that. I probably should be better at it since this is like what I do. But it's just it's not in my nature to have to like carry around video cameras and take pictures of myself all day. So I do apologize for that. I brought the stuff, all good intentions. Just didn't happen. So I'm going to have to figure it out going forward. Exactly. I need a better strategy, I think, for being on the road. We'll see how it is. I'm going to be on the road later this week too. I mean, theoretically, potentially, tomorrow might be the last podcast for the week since I'm going to Tempe for a triathlon coaching clinic to get my certification from USA Triathlon. So we'll see how it works. I haven't even thought about it yet. I haven't thought what I'm going to do, but we'll see. We'll see. So today is the Mont Tremblant recap podcast. We are back from Canada. A great weekend. A lot to talk about. This camera only stays on for 30 minutes. So I don't know. I might have to do this in 2 segments. We'll see. But I got my list. So let's get ready to go. The way we're going to do this is we're going to kind of just tell the story all through the weekend, how it went along. I'm going to try to stay on track. I always get sidetracked with side stories. I want to do this in one stream of consciousness, but we'll see how it goes. And, so we'll just tell the story and then we'll see how it shakes out. So Thursday, last time I talked to you guys, Thursday, we packed up the car. Good to go. I got to tell you, I didn't forget anything. In terms of preparedness, I was good. I had everything I needed. It was good. I'm kind of shocked. I guess you do this long enough and eventually you feel, you just have a sense for what to bring, what not to bring. And, there were some things that I thought maybe I'd forget. And then at the last minute I grabbed them. It was pretty good. I had everything. It was about a 7-hour drive from here to Mont Tremblant, Canada. Vermont is a beautiful state. I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever driven the entirety of the state. You'd be surprised how big it is. It took at least 3 hours, if not more, to get through it. Traveling with a baby, she's 7 months old now. Traveling with a baby the whole way for 7 hours, it was pretty tough, but we did a great job planning. We stopped in northern Vermont in some town called Middlesex where we got gas, and we stopped at this little kind of country store that actually was really great. It's kind of like this, hippie-ish, what you would expect from northern Vermont, but it was good food, and we actually made a point of it to come back on the way in. But yeah, the trip was great, and Vermont is just beautiful. I was shocked. I'm like, I can't believe I missed this. I can't believe I've never seen this before. The greenery, the mountains, it was a great trip up. No issues through customs either, by the way. For all you drug mules out there, just throw a bike on your car, pack up the back, throw a baby in the back. They hardly asked us any questions at all. We got right through, just in case you guys need, a little hint. Just wait for Ironman weekend. That's the way I'd do it. Now I'm going to get stopped every time because they're going to be like flagged for saying that. But, yeah, we had no trouble getting up there. Directions were fine. It just took 7 hours. I think it was 6.5 to get there, 7 hours to get back. And really the difference was a little traffic on the way back and stopping for Ellie because she's got to stop. She's got to stop. She's got to eat. But she was great. She was great all weekend. We got up there. I do have to thank Joe Bartlett and Michelle, his wife Michelle. We had a great weekend. And unfortunately, our friend Jim couldn't make the race and had to bail out when we took a spot in their Airbnb condo. And it was a great place. and we just had a great time. And it was great that, that they, hey, it's like, hey, we're coming up and we're bringing our baby. It kind of changes your weekend plans, right? I mean, you had to, but it worked out for the best. And Ellie, other than a little bit here and there where she got a little fussy, overall, I think she was great. She was great on race day. So I hear, because I wasn't with her, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we had a great time with Joe and Michelle, and I couldn't have asked for a better, the way this shook out, I couldn't ask for a better situation for me. Of course, sorry for Jim for missing it, but he'll be okay. He'll be back. I think they're racing Ironman Maine, a 70.3 in Maine later this year, so hopefully Jim will be back for that one. I know he will. But yeah, I mean, we got in Thursday. Friday night, we woke up. Friday morning, we woke up, and Joe and I went for a bike ride. Now, I hadn't been training all last week. I had a really bad training week last week. It wasn't supposed to be a taper week, but it kind of worked out to be that way. Just circumstantial things that happened. And I needed to get out and get on the bike just to kind of find my legs again. And getting out, we did about 10 miles. And he showed me some of the run course, and he showed me some of the village, and showed me a whole lot of things, and some of the, gave me a few pointers with the course. We're going to talk about that later. We were coming back to the hotel. We were about a mile away from the hotel, and we got off the road to a side road and had to go up a hill. And I got to tell you, I have never been up a hill this steep before in my life. I mean, I have hills. I've done Lake Placid, but this hill was short and steep. And I started going up it, and it wasn't like a really long hill, but it was just so steep. I'm going up it, and I'm going, oh my God. And I said to Joe, I don't know if I'm going to make it up this hill. And he yelled back, get up the hill. Just get up the hill. He of course gets up the hill fine. I get up the hill. I'm like, I'm dying. And I'm like, we kind of make a little turn, and what's in front of you? Another hill, same exact way, steep, short. No downslope. Just it goes up and then sort of levels off, but not quite, and then up again. I'm like, oh my God! But at least I know I can get up a hill like this. I just did it, and now I'm just pushing, breathing heavy, kind of just focusing on my pedal and getting it up. Get up that hill. I see Joe pretty much Joe is a little bit away, but we kind of turn another corner, and what do you know? Third hill, exactly the same, steep as hell, short. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So now I'm driving to that hill, I'm riding to that hill, and I'm going like 2 miles an hour because I need to kind of get my breath back, and get to that hill, get up that hill too. Oh my God, dying at the top of that hill. And now finally it levels off and goes a little bit down. Joe's like nowhere to be seen. He goes down the hills fast. I brake when I go downhill. And we get back to the room, and I'm like, dude, are there hills like that out on the course? And he just nods. He's like, yeah, there are. He's like, I'm going to show you an area that you got to see because you got to know what you're in for. And right then I'm like, uh-oh. Now I'm thinking I'm in trouble. Now I've done a lot of work on the bike, so I feel good about that. But, I still think it offsets by my weight being still 222, 223 when I left. I don't know. And I think it's just really hard to get that weight up that hill. I don't know what it is. It's really hard when it's that steep. So, I went to bed Friday night, worried about what's going on. And I don't know. We went, let's say Friday, we went to registration. We registered for the race, got our stuff. They gave us a little wetsuit bag, which is pretty cool. You usually get backpacks at these things. I mean, I've only done the full, so I've never done anything less than that. So I don't know if maybe they always, all the halves they give out. It was really cool. I don't know, kind of like, it was basically a bag for your wetsuit. So something different, which was good. So we did the registration. We went out to get some food and drove home. And on the way home, Joe's like, all right, let me show you this area on the course. So we drive up this out and back, probably about mile 48 I would guess. 47, 48 of the course. We're going on this out, and it's just a winding up and down country road, up and down. Oh, my God. And I'm looking at these hills, and I'm going, Joe, what the hell? I mean, I heard about this. I heard stories about people walking their bikes up the hills. I heard, I didn't know what to believe. I didn't think, I've been riding hills on indoor trainer, but it's not the same. And I know it's not the same. And I'm looking at this, and now I'm like really, we're driving up this thing, and like Ellie's in the back of the car screaming her head off. Stephanie's saying she's getting car sick because of all the turns and the winding and the up and the down. And I'm like looking at these hills freaking out, like, my God, because this is you're in mile 51, 50, you're going up these hills. It's tough. It'll just look tough. And I went to bed that night nervous of the bike. It's one thing if that would be at like mile 2 or 3 or something like that, when you still kind of got your legs fresh and everything's good. But in the back end of the course, it's like, Jesus. And then, I'm talking hills worse than, Lake Placid, you got the Three Bears at the end of the ride. But the Three Bears are nothing compared to what was out there. So, okay. All right. That is what it is, Saturday we got up and wanted to go swimming. I was I knew I should go swimming. I haven't been in the open water since Lake Placid, and I'm the first one to profess that swimming in the pool is nothing like swimming in open water with a wetsuit. It's just, totally different animal. And that still holds. So I knew I kind of wanted to get in the water. So we get down there, and it had been windy. We get down to the water about, I want to say like 11:30, 12. And the water is choppy, like really choppy, like intimidatingly choppy. And I'm going, oh God, this is great. This is what we got to face. And, we start walking in, and they warned us. They said, you can't go out on the course because if there's a peninsula. So you kind of like, the course is like you go out around this peninsula. And they told us if we went out on the course and we went past the peninsula, that we'd never be able to swim back because of the current. Then we hear stories about the race in the morning, because they had other races on Saturday morning, and that they cut the course short. I don't know. People were having trouble with the choppiness, and so what they did was they kind of marked off a short area for us. Now, mind you, everyone is there doing their practice swim, and there's just a small thin lane, and you got people swimming out and back and out and back, and I don't like swim traffic when it's all going in the same direction. Forget about trying to avoid people swimming back at you. So Joe and I picked out this little white buoy. Now, they told us if we swam beyond the white buoys that we would be DQ'd for the following day. That's how nervous they were for our safety, that they wouldn't even let us practice out there. So we picked this buoy about 25 yards and said, all right, we're going to swim to that buoy. So we got in the water, and it was cold, and we'd expected cold water, but it wasn't freezing cold. It was definitely, I wouldn't want a recreational swim in it, but with the wetsuit on and when you're just swimming in it, it was fine. So one worry kind of out the window. No freezing cold water. It wasn't going to be like Titanic out there, like people are freezing, bobbing up and down. That wasn't the case. The water temperature was fine. But the choppiness was crazy. So I jump in the water, I'm dealing with the choppiness, and all of a sudden I remembered what the deal. I couldn't breathe. And one of our good swimmers in our discussion group, Joe Caniano, talked to me about this a couple weeks ago. I'm wondering if we had the same kind of experience. He talked about hyperventilating in the water, and he's a really good swimmer. So it's like, what's the deal with that? And I kind of think that it has something to do with the temperature of the water being really cold in combination with, I think what the main thing is when you don't normally wear a wetsuit and you get in, that wetsuit, once it gets wet, it just constricts on your chest. And it takes a little while to get used to that constriction for your body to adjust. Now, when I'm in a pool and I swim that first lap down to the end, say 25 yards, whatever the pool is, I can get maybe 3/4 away. I don't even have to breathe. I'm a right side breather. I never have to even bother breathing. For the first 3 or 4 laps, it takes until I hit that rhythm of having to breathe every stroke, which is 4 or 5 laps in. I can kind of hold my breath for a while. It is the exact opposite with that wetsuit in the open water. I can't even hold my breath for a single stroke. And I can see why people would freak out, especially if you don't have the experience. I could see why people would freak out and be like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't understand why I can't breathe. This isn't the same as practice. I'm in the open water. You could freak out. And it takes, like, I would say somewhere between 50 and 100 yards for me to get used to that wetsuit. And I'm glad we went for the swim. And the choppiness of the water was horrible because that first down and back, that 50 yards down that we did, I was like, what am I going to do? I'm in bad shape. I was not having a good time. So I kind of sat there and waited, and I said, I'm going to do one more out and back, and I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to change my frame of mind. We're going to, instead of being a victim to the choppiness, I'm going to attack the choppiness, and I'm going to show that choppiness. I'm going to show that water who's boss. So it was just a change of my mindset, right? And I went after it aggressively, and all of a sudden I could handle the chop. And I said, well, I said to myself, geez, I don't want it to be choppy. I don't know if I can hold that frame of mind through 1.2 mile swim the next day. I'm nervous about it, but at least I got in the water and now I know what it's going to feel like. So I have that experience, which was good. That was a good thing. Got out of the water. I got to tell you though, it was still nerve wracking to see that water so choppy and think that that's what we were going to be facing the next day. So we went later in the afternoon. We had to drop off our bikes in transition, dropped off our bikes. We went to the athlete briefing, which was mostly in French, which means we couldn't really understand it. But, they tried to do both, but the English was maybe like 20% and the French was maybe 80%. But the one thing that did come across was they talked about the water and the event that they had Saturday morning. They shortened the swim, and yet still, with the water being so choppy, they said that all of their kayaks, people were just holding on. And now you're allowed to hold on to the kayak. That's what they're there for. You're allowed to go and hold on. What you can't do is hold on to the kayak and use it to advance yourself in the swim. If you get on the kayak and take a break, that's fine. But you have to start swimming again in the exact same spot where, the kayak can't paddle you 30 yards and then you go on. You have to start swimming the same spot. That's the rule. But apparently everyone got into the choppy water and held onto the kayaks for dear life. Not everyone, but a whole lot of people. So my gut was telling me that they were prepping us for a cancellation or a severe shortening of the swim on race day. That's what I was thinking. And that part kind of made me happy because, you're going into it and I'm thinking, like, what is the deal? Because there's two ways they can go with this when they may have to make this call, right? And one way is you err on the side of caution. You don't want someone to get injured. Obviously in the water, people are just, something goes on, it's bad news. It's hard. That's the one place, if you get into a bike crash, at least they can get to you, right? The water is just different. So I think they were prepping us to cancel the swim. But on the other hand, you have these athletes that train in this stuff, that are strong swimmers, who say, geez, you know what? They might even be racing to win. They might be the pros, and they're saying, I'm a great swimmer in choppy water. This is my advantage. Why are you canceling the swim? We have elite athletes out here that can handle this. And I can kind of get that point too. So, it's like, you're walking a fine line here of to cancel it or not. But they did have a sense that they were prepping us to cancel that swim at that time. So now, I don't know. We're sitting there. Now I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking like 2 out of the 3 events that I came here for, the bike is making me nervous with the hills. The swim is making me nervous with the water. And, it's not like a good thing to, a good frame of mind to go to bed in with, you're kind of like on race night before you go to bed. And we did get to bed early. I want to say I went to bed at like 9 o'clock. We just kind of settled in and, just worried about that the chop and worried about the hills. I will say that after the athlete briefing, we met Christian Lee, former podcast guest, who was also doing the race with his wife Addie. We met her as well, and couldn't meet a nice enough guy. And just it's funny. Me and Joe were talking after. We're like, just the kind of guy you can kind of like hang out with, just meet, just a fun dude, and fit right in with the group. He's probably like telling us friendly, I gotta hang out with this annoying ordinary marathoner guy. But yeah, we met up with him, and it was great, man. It was great. We sat there eating poutine, gravy fries with cheese curd. I mean, geez, they got some good stuff up there, man. That mountain was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, I must say. But race day comes, and here's where everything starts to change, right? We're here, right? We're here. It is race day morning. 4:15 a.m. Alarms go off. Joe and I are up, getting everything ready. Did I skip a day? I think I did. Let's see. Oh, well, the other thing I got to mention, I guess. This triathlon was my first non-Ironman triathlon. That's right. I've done 3 triathlons in my life. All of them full-length Ironman. And one of the things Joe told me when I got there, he's like, you realize that this is not, there's no tents, that you don't go into a tent and change. There's no bags to fill, like bag drops and, special needs bags where you can kind of put them on the course and that you have all your nutrition and stuff. That this is the kind of triathlon where you just put a towel down near your bike and that's all your stuff. Never did that before. Never practiced it. Didn't know what I was doing. Kind of set it up a little bit the night before the race and try to, in my mind, go through. I'm not a quick transition person, right? I'm not in these races to win per se. I'd like to do well, but usually that transition time I kind of need to just settle in for the next event. So my transition times are never going to be like, really quick. They're always going to be kind of like middle of the pack to kind of like slow transition. I think my first transition was 8 minutes. But I'm also not wearing a tri kit. I changed full change into bike gear, full change into run gear. That's just the way I operate. That's just the way I feel comfortable. And it kind of helps me get into the right frame of mind for the next event. So, the morning of the race, we get down there, we go to the bike racks, put my stuff down. I was lucky enough, someone in my row didn't show up, so there's an empty bike rack, so he's kind of made a little bit extra room, which I needed because my spot was like, I couldn't even fit a shoe in the spot that was there by the time we got there. But the guy next to me moved his stuff down, which I was grateful for, and lucky that someone didn't show up. So I met, Joe and I, our bikes were in different areas, so we met and we started walking over to the swim area where the race starts. This is going to be a long podcast, guys. I'm sorry. Walk over to the swim, and I got to tell you, this was like a high. This was, in terms of support, definitely rivals Lake Placid, if not betters Lake Placid. One great thing, and if Lake Placid is listening, this was an awesome thing. You walk into that swim area and you got your bag, right? With your wetsuit. You're holding your wetsuit to change in when you get there, and you're walking in, and then the nerves are starting to pick up. The water is right behind them. You walk down through the entrance, and there's lines of volunteers on both sides, probably 20 volunteers on each side. And as you walk through, they just erupt with cheers, and it is the greatest feeling. It is like it just makes you feel special kind of going through there. And these are local people volunteering. You would think mostly local people volunteering, and they are welcoming you to their race. They're giving you just an ovation for being there and just trying it and just starting, really, which was awesome. And it just kind of like warms you up inside. Now, I had lost sleep thinking about that water, and I had lost sleep about that bike, and I'm like, I'm nervous enough as it is. And when we peeked at that water for the first time, what a weight off my shoulders. It was just smooth and calm. Very tiny chop, but like nothing compared to the day before. Nothing compared to the day before. So it was like all that stress that had built up from the whole day of like, oh, I gotta swim in that choppy stuff. It just lifted. And it was great. It was great. So Joe and I sat there for a while waiting for the start, changed into our wetsuit. We met a pro who was changing. I don't even know her name. She was number 27. I got to look that up. Couldn't have been a nicer person. She was so sweet. And she's like, yeah, I just started training for triathlon a couple years ago. It turns out I'm really good at this. And my coach was like, yeah, you should go pro. So I did. The most humble person, I don't know, the most humble pro I've ever seen, I think. But she was just changing. I'm like, don't they have like a special place for you guys to go and like hang out before the race? She's like, yeah, but I kind of like it here. She likes being among the people. And I don't even know her name, but yeah, super cool to meet a pro right before the race. Joe and I changed it to our wetsuit. They have these 2 giant trucks, right? They're for your morning bag. So basically they give you a bag, you put all your clothes in it or whatever you want to pick up later, and you throw it into these big dump trucks, big red dump trucks, and then you pick it up later. And so I zip up my bag and I just hand it to Joe. I said, Joe, can you throw my bag in there? He throws it. As he's throwing the bag in, I look down. I still got my flips on, my flip-flop shoes. And I'm like, no. Because now I lost the shoes. Now I can't pick them up later. The bag's in the dump truck. No one's getting that thing. So yeah, I'm out a pair of old $10 Old Navy flip-flops. I'm kind of upset about that. They might still be there though. So if you need a pair of size 11s, head on over to the entry. They're ducked behind some stairs over there. I was gonna go see if I could pick them up later, but I never did. They're probably still there. Yeah, and then so we lined up, and Joe and I kind of swim the same speed. His plan was to kind of take the swim a little bit easy since he really hadn't been focused on swimming, and he was going to try to make that up on the bike, I think, which he's strong on the bike. And my plan was just find my cadence, adjust to the water, find my cadence, and swim. Swim your best. And we sat on that bench. We seated ourselves in the 45-minute to 48-minute group. Now, the two of us last year, I think I was like a little over an hour and a half for the full distance. So 2.4, double the miles. And Joe was like 125. So we probably seated ourselves a little bit further back than we needed to be. Also, I'm in much better shape this year than last year. So I knew I should have been a little bit better than where I was seating myself, but I think I was a little nervous not having been in the open water. And I would rather seat myself back than seat myself forward and have people trampling me. That was the kicker. And so now we're on the beach. And the best thing about this time is everyone's kind of in the same area. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Everyone's anticipating the race in their own way. And for some, they may be going over in their minds, they're planning or whatnot. And some people are in there doing their practice swim. And, we didn't know when we were going to actually get in the water. And it was cold out. So we were a little bit worried. Do you get in the water? Because then what happens is you get in the cold water, you get out in the cold air. That could be negative there, standing there in the cold, frigid water. And the people behind us were like, you know what? We took a swim and we think that was a wrong idea. So Joe and I didn't go in for a practice swim. We were talking to the people behind us a little bit. Now, the pros went off at 7 a.m. The pro women went off at 7:05. There was a jet flyover that was super cool. It actually flew one way, then turned around and flew the other way, and no one saw it coming the other way. It scared the hell out of everybody. The entire Canadian Air Force, I think, was there. One plane. But it was awesome. It was really cool. I got to tell you, what was going through my mind at that moment was total nerves. And I didn't know. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. I don't have any placeholder for how I am in terms of what kind of shape I'm in. Open water swim, haven't done in a while. That's what's going through my mind. I haven't been swimming a lot the last month or two. And it's going through my, it's a long swim, 1.2 miles. Like, what's going to happen? What if I cramp up? I hadn't even thought of that. Like, I didn't even, And then I'm wondering, and then I have this thing. I wonder if I belong there. And it's a little deep. I'm going to get a little deep with you guys. But I wonder I'm sitting there, I'm like, why am I here? Why am I? And I've done 2 fulls, and I've completed 2 fulls, and this is a half. So I mean, I know what I should know, right? But still, that's what's going through my mind. Why am I here? I'm looking around like, why? Why are these people? A lot of them are in really good shape, and and I got to be honest, I look for people who may be out of shape, and I'm like, all right, that person's there too. So, and it makes me feel better about myself, and I don't know why. And I shouldn't do that because I tell you, when I'm out in that course, a lot of those people finish way in front of me. But I'm like, I'm like, oh, did I really train enough? I question everything. I'm like, did I do enough swimming? Did I do, oh man, I did a lot of bike on inside. Maybe it didn't translate. Maybe I'm not going to be ready for this. I should have done more hills. Everything kind of falls on you in that moment, at least for me. And I don't think that it shows outwardly. I don't know. Maybe we can ask Joe Bartlett if he thought I was nervous. I was freaking out internally. I try to kind of like put on a tough face. I try to kind of change my mindset and say, all right, and what happens is by the time I get to that start line, which took a long time, by the way, the pros were out of the water by the time we started. It was I forget what they call it. This is the second time I forgot. A rolling start. And they have this little machine that has a little red Ironman logo and it flashes green. 6 people get in the water. 10 seconds later, another 6 people. So it's a really slow process. And, I think the starting gun went off at 7:10. We didn't get in the water probably like 7:40. It was a long time. But I think it was well worth it in the end. There was a lot of space in the water. But again, let's get back to, when I approach that starting line, it's like, you know what? There's no backing out now. It's like kind of like when you get to the front of the line of a roller coaster, right? You've been online and you're like, oh my God, it's like 7 loops on this thing. No thanks. It's like, you got to go. You got to go. There's no turning back now. And so I try to kind of change my frame of mind and be like, all right, we got to get aggressive with this thing. We got to attack this thing. Again, trying to remember that second lap that I did in practice swim, right? That was the mindset that I had. So I get in the water and that chest restriction, can't breathe. Taking some strokes. I can't hold my head under the water for one full stroke to get that head lifted. I have to kind of like do a half a stroke and look up and kind of start again and look up and start again. And it took me like 50 yards and all of a sudden it just kicked in. And all of a sudden I'm swimming normal. And just as every stroke I was taking was more and more confidence. And all of a sudden things are changing. And then the nerves that I had, which all of a sudden, all that nerves, they compound when you jump in that water and you can't breathe. And then all of a sudden you can start to breathe and you're bringing it together. You're getting it together. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm doing it. And I will tell you this with the open water too, is that all that practice you do, and when you're swimming, you're worried about your stroke and you have your paddles and you're doing all this stuff, that's kind of out the window. Your stroke is your stroke when you're out there. And, especially in the beginning, you're just going, and you don't practice a lot with traffic. So I actually love to see the map. I should look at the GPS map of my swim to see how I did with sighting. But it is much different. And I'll tell you, I know one of my almost every stroke, I look up and breathe. I look up and breathe. I look up and breathe. Almost every stroke. I got to stop doing that because that's costing me time. But man, I'm telling you, I was picking people off in the swim. I was going through crowds, like swimming around. I'd never experienced this before, but I think because I seated myself so far back, and because of the temperature of the water and because of the distance, I think, and people probably overseating themselves instead of underseating like what me and Joe did, I was just swimming through people. And I was loving the swim. And I got to tell you, the water up, it was almost nicer. This is what I would say is that the water in Mirror Lake is usually like just pristine, calm. Rarely, I don't know, knock on wood, I've rarely seen it choppy. But the water in Mont Tremblant, the clarity, I felt like I could see further. Like I could see someone's feet swimming ahead of me if they were a little bit further ahead. Now, when I was in Maryland, I couldn't see my hand in the water ahead of me. But here you could see it was nice. It was clear. The buoys were out there. Everything was nice. There was a lot of space to swim for the most part. there were some swimmers I came up across, and I don't know why, because I didn't get this a lot in Lake Placid, that they would swim and they'd be doing their freestyle stroke, and then all of a sudden they'd break into breaststroke. I don't know if for sighting purposes or to take a rest, but when you're following someone, you're kind of next to them, and they're doing freestyle, and all of a sudden their legs do that butterfly kick. Man, it knocks you. You know, there was definitely some contact a bunch of times. The contact wasn't like elbows to face, no knocking off of goggles, no foot to face or anything like that. It was always just barely like a grazing, but there was some contact out there. So even though it was open, there was some. It wasn't purely, non-eventful when it came to contact. There was some contact out there, but just for people who are wondering, if they can get a perfect swim out there, it wasn't perfect, but. Man, I felt great. I just felt great. Even though the water got in my mouth, it tasted pretty good. It's pretty clear, pretty clean. I don't know. It was good. I got out of the water, 40 minutes, 29 seconds. That's got to be my fastest leg ever. And I did. I kind of had a moment where I thought, man, am I going to be able to do that twice? It's going to be a little more challenging, obviously. Could I get out of that water and jump back in and do it again? Yeah, I think so. I felt pretty confident. Now, I get out of that water, and I don't know if a lot of people experience this. Maybe I need to practice it more, and it's just because I don't do any open water swims. Getting out of that water, there's a good, I want to say, 15 to 20 minute adjustment period that I go through. So I get out, and I need to go to the wetsuit strippers, take off the wetsuit, and carrying that thing back. I'm wearing like spandex, jogging, my gut bouncing up and down for the world to see. People are cheering, whatever. Those are things I think of. Get back to the bike, and now I'm just kind of a very regimented transition where I just take my time, make sure I get everything done. I got my nutrition. I had 3 Cliff Bars. I had base salt. I put a Gatorade on the bottle on the bike in advance, which I didn't do in Lake Placid, which is good because I really needed it. I was very glad that I had it. And bike shoes on, bike gloves on, bike shorts, bike shirt, and I was out. And just as I was ready to leave, I see Joe coming in. So I beat Joe on the swim. I beat him by like 2 minutes. Joe does transition much faster than me. I rode out of the bike, got past the mountain line, got on my bike, started going. Set my watch, and there was Ellie and Stephanie, and Joe's wife Michelle cheering us on. They're probably a little bit surprised that Joe was behind me because he's usually never behind me. But I passed them, said hello. It was so great to see them. I got to tell you, it is a lift when you see your support on course. And I don't blame them if they're not there at every turn. It is a pain in the ass to sit around and wait all day for your people to come around. But when you do see them, it is like a nice boost. It's just a great boost. So got out on the bike. And now this is where all the practice from really all year is kind of coming into play. And I'm out there thinking. And, Joe's advice to me was this. He's like, the difference between this course and Placid is that there's no flat. You're either going up or you're going down. It's all rolling hills. And he was right. His advice was just remember every uphill, when you hit that uphill, chances are on the other side, there's a downhill. So enjoy the downhill. Don't hit the brakes, because what's going to happen at the bottom of that downhill? You're going to be going right up that hill. And I tell you, that advice kept me off the brakes more than normal. And what it also did was, when you pick up that speed going downhill and then you're hitting that next uphill, it gives you so much more sort of momentum, kind of like that kinetic energy, I guess, like that momentum going forward to start up that hill. And it's a lot. The longer that you have to wait before downshifting up those hills, it saves your legs. You wouldn't believe how much. And some of those hills, they look very daunting, but if you pick up enough speed and you go into them, you're like, wow, that hill looked horrible from down there, but I'm almost up it already, and then it's nothing. It's nothing. It was great advice. It kept me off the brakes, and it kept me moving forward. And I tell you, there were points in this ride where I'm looking down, I'm going like 16, 17 miles an hour, and I'm like, man, I don't even know what my pace was for Ironman Lake Placid in the past, but not close to 15 miles an hour, probably 13 and a half. Granted, this is only a half, so half the distance. But halfway through this ride, I'm averaging 16 miles an hour. I would say 2 hours through the ride, and I'm thinking, man, I'm doing well here. Like this is, and of course, my mind keeps going back to one other thing, which is at mile 47, I got to do that out and back with these hills. I got to face these damn things. And it's kind of like, I go through phases when I'm out on the bike, right? I go through these phases where it's like, sometimes I'm like, I'm doing awesome. So I gotta, what are you made of? I'm asking myself, let's see what you're made of. Really telling myself, it's coming. Let's see what you're made of. Let's see how good you really got in the off season here with this bike. And I'm challenging myself on the ride, especially kind of like towards mile 38, 39, when I know this thing is coming. And when I got there, this is what I found. Was number one, Joe's advice still held to a large degree, which was there were some hills where we drove up the day before, but because I didn't notice the downhill beforehand, I thought these hills were going to be really hard, and in reality, they weren't as bad. But there were definitely a couple points where I was really, really challenged. Sometimes I didn't think I'd make it up. There were some times where I'm following someone, I'm trying to pass, and I don't understand how this person is staying on their bike because they're going so slow. I feel like they should just tip over. I'm like, because I can't stay on the bike behind them, and I couldn't pass because someone, whatever. So we get to this point where now, and it was very similar to the day before with the ride with Joe, or 2 days before with the ride with Joe, where you go up a hill and it's steep, and then it never really levels off. It kind of, and then you go up around a corner, and then there's another giant hill. And I get up about half of this hill, and now, mind you, there are people walking. Because we're back of the Packers, there are people, it's like a highway to the right, people walking their bikes up these hills. And I'm telling myself, don't walk, don't walk, don't walk, don't walk, don't walk, don't get off the bike, don't get off the bike. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And I got into that situation where I was just going so slow, I was scared that I would just tip over. I didn't want that to happen. You tip over, you got to unclip your shoe. There's no catching yourself, And this hill, it was steep. And then at the very end of the hill, it got even steeper. And I saw that little part, and I said, you know what? I got to get off. And I did. I admit it. I got off the bike. I wasn't alone. Got off the bike, walked it about 20 yards up the hill. Didn't feel proud about that. Got back on the bike and started riding. I felt okay. And now, a little up ahead, there was more hills. And I'm thinking, just keep giving it what you got. If you got to get off, you got to get off. But give it what you got and try to get up that hill. Because at the end, when you make that turnaround, you're going to be heading back. And it's not so bad on the way back. And mostly downhill. There's a couple little uphills, but mostly downhill on the way back. And I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking about it as like the payoff. You're going to get on that bike on the way down. And I'm pushing. Now people that made it up the hill that I didn't make it up, they're walking their bikes up the hill. And I'm passing them. And I'm going, maybe that hill getting off, it actually rejuvenated me. It actually gave me a little bit of energy that I needed. And I never had to get off the bike again. Just walk that little bit. Not really that proud of it. But in the end, you know what? Hey, I'm still a finisher. I still got through this bike ride. I got to the top of that hill. I turned around. And now it's mostly downhill. There's a couple more uphills, but not as challenging. And then that was it for me, because that was the last challenge I had. That was everything I'd worried about, the choppy water, the big giant hills. Now all that was gone. And it was like, phew, my race is I looked down at my watch. I'm like, I had set times for myself for the swim, bike, and run. And my swim expectation was 45 minutes. I finished in 40:29, which is significant, right? Significant for the swim. I went at the bike hoping for 3:45. And in reality, I kind of thought, all right, 15 miles an hour would be about 4 hours, maybe a little bit in. I wound up averaging 15 and a half miles an hour. I came in at 3:39.14. So I beat it by almost 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes, which I feel great about. It's not the fastest bike in the world. I know that. I know that it's still my deficiency. It is still my weakness is the bike. And I don't know. I don't know how much more time I could put into it other than losing the weight and getting down to like 180 pounds. That's probably what I got to do. But do I do that? No. Freaking Oreos and Cliff Bars and whatever. So overall, I'm thrilled with this bike. I'm thrilled with the race. Felt great. Got off the bike, and now I'm headed out of transition for the run. Couple of points of interest. Now, I told you about my left little toe that feels like it explodes after about 40 miles on the bike. I took my shoe before we left, and I took a razor blade to it where my little toe hits that pressure point inside the shoe. And I know you're not really supposed to do anything new on race day, but I didn't know what else to do. And I got to tell you, it worked. My little toe felt fine. One thing that didn't feel fine was that my feet in general, they were like numb. I got off the bike, my feet were like numb. Put the sneakers on, changed into my run clothes. I went out there. As soon as I got out of the chute, there's Stephanie with Ellie. And man, that was probably my favorite moment of the race. I had just had all that pressure kind of lift off my shoulders, and seeing them there, and now I know I'm finishing, right? I know I can do a half marathon. So, rewind, I don't know, 4.5 hours before, and I'm standing on a beach wondering what the hell I'm doing there, wondering if I belong. And now I know I'm going to finish, unless something really crazy happens on the run. I know I'm going to get through this thing. And then I see them there, and it's like, man. And you know what it is? It's just knowing that they're out there. It's hot. It's sunny. There are bugs out. They don't know where I'm going to be. They got the tracker app, and it's not 100% reliable, but it's pretty. I guess it was pretty good. They knew kind of where I was. And to see them standing there, it's like, I went over. I always give them kisses and hugs, and I stay for a couple seconds, and it's just really cool to have that support. I tell you, it's nice. So I headed out on the run. I did stop at the bathroom, I will say. After I give you this really poignant moment with my family, now I'm taking a leak. But I had started my Garmin, ducked in the bathroom. First mile was 12 minutes. My feet were numb. My feet were bad, and I'm thinking geez, I can't feel them when they land on the ground, and I'm thinking what's gonna happen if they collapse, I roll an ankle or something like that. I don't know, but I'm running, and I just decided at that point, look, it's not. I felt good. I'm just I'm wondering if I keep running and don't give some walk intervals there, am I not giving? Maybe I need to give my feet some time to recover from the bike. So I start walk intervals. And in the beginning, I would say the first 4 miles of the course is street, and you go up hills and down hills and up hills and down hills. So I would walk the up hills, run the down hills. And then you get on this trail, kind of like a bike trail. And I would basically count the lines. There were little yellow lines, dotted lines in the middle of the road. And I would count. And I started out I would walk 10 lines, and then I'd run 40 or 50. And then I'd walk 10, run 40 or 50, whatever it was, however I felt, hoping that the thing in the feet would just go away. And it didn't. And if anything, it got worse. I would say the last 3 miles, it was bad. My right foot, it felt like I had a rock in my shoe, but I didn't. And I don't know, I don't know if it's the bike shoes. I don't know if it's the running shoes. The running shoes are kind of brand new. I got them maybe 3 weeks ago. I did do a couple long runs in them without a problem. So I don't know that that's them. It's them. I don't think it is. I think it was like a leftover from the bike. And I don't know what to do about that at this point, other than maybe I'll do a couple brick workouts and do some like 40-mile bike rides and then break into a run and see how it is. I think that's kind of what I have to do here to try to deal with this problem and figure it out. Because, I mean, it's one thing going 56 miles on the bike and then doing a half, and it's another thing doing double, and doing 112 on the bike and then doing a full marathon with numb feet. I don't know. That the thought of that is just daunting. It's very scary. But yeah, I mean, I got out on the run, and we were with the same group of people. I didn't really talk to too many people. A lot of the people I were with, they spoke French. There's, the one thing. So when I did Marine Corps Marathon years ago, I talked to my friend Ramon Burmo, he's a coach. He's done hundreds of marathons and whatever. We've had him on the podcast a bunch of times. And he said, look, if you're going to do run walk intervals, here's the proper etiquette, right? Go to the right of the road. Every time you break into a walk, raise your hand, look behind you, make sure no one's going to run into you. You don't want to stop short in front of someone who's running. It's not fair to them. Just stay out of the way. Got it. That was the etiquette. And I still do that. The problem was we were running out on the left, and it's a down, out and back. So people are running out on the left and running back on the right. So it's a little strange to run in the right lane when you're going to be doing your intervals and have people, when it's kind of like, it's almost like English traffic, I guess, like in England where they drive on the wrong side of the road. You guys do drive on the wrong side of the road. Actually, I take that back. I think they do it the right way. There's a reason for it, but we won't get into it. Anyway, let's not give them credit. I don't know. So I'm pulling to the right and I'm walking, and this French guy kind of walks by me. He speaks English too, I guess, but it's a little broken. And he runs by me on the left, and he yells at me, "Get to the left. If you're gonna walk, get to the left." Like nasty. And I'm like, "Oh, all right, dude. All right. There's a way to do that, right? It's, hey man, can you, just so you know, if you're gonna be walking, you should go on the left. That's kind of like the etiquette here." Yeah, thanks for the advice. I'll go to the left. But no, he snapped at me. He got really mad. So I moved to the left. Now I'm doing these run walk intervals. So I passed him at some point, and I started running again. And I went to go past this woman who was on the left, and I went to pass her, and he passed me on the right, and he yelled at me again. I said, get to the left. If you're going slow, get to the left. So then the New Yorker in me came out. I don't want to get myself in trouble with Ironman because I feel like it's a little breach of etiquette as to what I say. But I think one of the words started with F. I don't think he wanted to stop and fight me, but I do think he was probably a little nervous at that point that I reacted with back at him. He's probably not used to people talking back to him. He's really just a jerk. He was really just a jerk. And he probably doesn't expect people to talk back to him, but he was doing this to everybody. Every time he'd pass someone, he'd yell at them. And I was running behind him sometimes, and I would tell the people, like, don't worry, he's been doing that to everyone. He's a real jerk. He's just, a jerk might have been a good word that I was using. But people get upset. You know what? Why are you upsetting people? We're all out there having a good time. You're not going to win the race, dude. Everyone wants to have a good time. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's trying to get to the finish like anybody else. Why do you got to be a jerk? Just, hey, if you want to impart your knowledge of proper etiquette, there's a way to do it. That's not the way. That's not the way. But I ran with that guy for probably 10 miles. I'll admit he beat me in the end. And I kind of wanted to take him. I just, towards the end, we hit those hills again on the way back, and I was like, you know what, the right thing to do. Again, Caveman Brain. I was thinking about Caveman Brain, and I'm like, don't push yourself too much. And I finished the run in 2:36:09. 2:36:09, which my plan for the run was just 2:45. So again, 9 minutes through my expectation. Guys, I couldn't be happier with the results here. I finished, granted, I gave myself some cushiony times to finish within. Some cushiony expectations, because again, I didn't want to have that caveman brain where I needed to push to finish for a certain time. I just wanted to say, all right, I'm comfortable with these intervals, with this time, so that I could take this and take it into Lake Placid and be comfortable. The finish in Mont Tremblant is awesome, and the support was amazing. And I went out on that run, and about 2 miles into going out, I saw Christian Lee coming back, and he yelled to me. He said hello as he was going back in. And then 2 miles later, or 3 miles later, I saw Joe Bartlett running in. I saw him, and we said hello. Christian, when I came through that finisher chute, so you kind of go up the mountain and then down through the town, and there's just people lying in the streets, and it's really cool. And then someone yells out, "Almond milk!" And I look, it's Christian Lee, probably on his third beer, leaning out over the side of a restaurant, spotting me, finishing. It was just super cool. Great finish there. And I tell you, the lighting structure they have up, I can't imagine what it feels like to go through there in the full at night if you're finishing it during the dark. It must feel awesome. But even without that, I felt great. I got to the finish line. They called my name. They just said Scott from East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I saw the finish line. I was running towards the finish line, but they took pictures of me beforehand. And I'm like, oh, I missed my finisher pick. And then as I got to the finish line, it was like a little bit of an upslope, and I didn't see it. And of course, I freaking trip. I kind of trip over the finish line. And the guy's sitting there with the camera in my face, and he's like, and I'm like, oh, did you get that? Did you get that? And he didn't look at me because he's looking for the next person already. But I don't know. So there could be photo, video evidence of me tripping over the finish line, which is excellent. I'd love to see that. But all in all, a great race for me. You get through. They hand you your medal. I got a really cool hat. I like the hat. The race shirt was, it's black with yellow writing. I'm kind of over that combo. I don't really like the black with yellow writing. Black shirts are like, I kind of thought about maybe doing that for Ordinary Marathon, but we're not going to do that. I think we're going gray or white. Probably not white. I'm being told not white. Probably a gray next year. I don't know. We're going to vote on that, really. So anyway, moving forward. I felt great. I had poutine and coleslaw, and they gave me a chocolate milk and water. Joe Bartlett actually waited for me in the tent and brought me a beer. So I'm sitting there with chocolate milk and beer and poutine. And under the napkin, they had a little chocolate chip cookie. It's like the worst combo you could possibly imagine, but it never tasted so good. It was awesome. I got to tell you, Mont Tremblant, great freaking race. Great people, great volunteers, great setup, great course. The hill and the bike race. I can't imagine doing the bike twice there. I can't. That'd be tough. But now, we finished. We went out to dinner, had some beers. Met Joe's friend Sean, his wife Joanne, his awesome couple. We met out with Christian. Met us out for a couple beers after. We just kind of hanging out, and what a great day! What a great day. Joe and I put down a 12-pack of Labatt's. We got back to the house. What a great day overall. I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say about it. I went from really not knowing, having no confidence whatsoever, to now being a little bit confident. I got to tell you, the further I get away from the race too, the more and more confident I'm getting. Because I know that my feeling when I just got off the bike was I don't know for sure that I'm ready for Lake Placid. I mean, the thought of doubling that distance was a little bit crazy. And I know, we were sitting there at about 10:30 at night, just kind of vegging out, enjoying what was a great day. And I looked at my watch and I said, when I did Lake Placid 2 years ago, I was still out on the course right now. So we had done the half. We had our post-game stuff. We got our everything out of transition, walked it back up the hill, took showers, went back, ate dinner, had a few beers, came back up to the house, and we're still sitting there watching Northwoods, some stupid, show on TV. And we watched it on the night before just for whatever. But anyway, we're just sitting there talking, and I'm like, man, I was still out there. And that thought was kind of like, wow, like that's a real deal. I got to tell you, my thoughts after 70.3, this could be my sweet spot, man. I really, really like this race. I love the distance. It's doable. It's like, I'm going to go out there in a month and it's still, I still am not 100% confident. I feel better after this race. Generally speaking, I feel better after my performance in this race. I say too that after the race, like we were walking around the town, there's a lot of hills in the town. And Joe's like, I am not walking up that hill. And I'm thinking, if I really had to, I could. I had to push the stroller up a giant hill to our apartment with Ellie in it and a whole bunch of like stuff from the race. And I did it. So I'm thinking I still had a lot left in these legs. Like I might have thought I was pushing, but I still had something left. And I definitely didn't go into the finish line of the run expending everything that I had. So Caveman Brain, I was able to avoid. I didn't die after the race. I felt good about myself. There were some legs left there, which is encouraging. And my times were all better than expected. That's encouraging too. The hills in Mont Tremblant are very steep. They're different than the hills in Lake Placid. It's a different kind of challenge. So I've got about 2 weeks of training here to do. I'm going to do a little bit of a training run tomorrow, probably a little brick workout tomorrow before heading out to Phoenix. And hopefully I'll get some productive training done out there, but obviously I don't have my bike with me. I don't know. So I'm still I'm not 100% confident going into Lake Placid. I'm not. This race probably helped a little bit. It did help a little bit because, my thing was the bike. My thing has always been the bike. And even though I did walk up that hill was not Lake Placid. That hill was Mont Tremblant. That hill was different hill. To finish that bike in 3:39, 20 minutes less than 4 hours, I'm okay with that. I feel all right with that. I feel like, I probably could have done faster if I didn't get off the bike and walk up the hill. I could have done, there's a lot of different things in there that I could have done faster. I didn't know that course intimately, so there was some fear there with that course and not knowing it intimately. I know Lake Placid. I've been on that thing on the trainer 100 times. I've been through it in real life twice. I've driven it twice. I know what it's about. So I should be a little bit more comfortable. I think what my fear is now when I get through that first loop, how much time do I have? And tell you what, I had a little back issue. That same issue I had last year, still had that little back pain finishing off those hills at the end of that first loop. So how am I going to feel after the first loop in Lake Placid? And am I going to be able to put away that monster that says, you know what, you've done enough today? Or am I going to be able to take that monster that says you should stop, you're good, you're in pain, you don't want to get injured. This is the race. This is the year. This is what I'm doing this for. And the other thing I have to say is I want to thank everybody out there, Scott Farsard especially, getting out on our discussion group and like posting all my times when I finished each event. I didn't even ask you to do that. That was awesome. And all of your support and like even the words after you guys that know me, you're just like reaching out and saying, telling me that I'm ready. And I'm worried about, I don't have this confidence in myself. I just don't. And, it helps. It really helps. And just all that support, feeling all that support, it's really encouraging. So I want to thank all you guys that followed. I know I didn't tweet enough. I know I wasn't on Facebook enough for a guy that has a podcast, but I do appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. And I don't take it for granted. So thank you all for your comments. People reached out to me personally. Ben Hinton, T-Sean, Jim Simcoe. Thank you guys, really. And other, you guys aren't the only ones. It's just the ones that I remember immediately. So I do thank you guys for Ronald. That's another one. Tony Perlman. So yeah, I told you there's a lot of people. I'm looking forward to Lake Placid. I got some work to do here to feel comfortable. We're going to do some work in the next couple of weeks. And we got 2 weeks of tapering and then we're off. So I'm excited about it. It's a good little thing. That's it. I think, I know I cut through this twice. I don't know if you guys even noticed. Hopefully I'm able to cut through the editing a little bit so you don't even notice that I had to cut the video twice. But That's it. That's the wrap up for Mont Tremblant. We're finished. It's over in the rear view. I love the 70.3. That could be my thing next year. I'm telling you, I might need to take a break from the full. Let's get through this one. But I really enjoyed this race. I really enjoyed the distance. I know a whole bunch of you guys are going to be doing the 70.3 in Lake Placid. Wish you guys the best of luck. I might come up for that one just to watch. I know Christian Lee has in 2 weeks some crazy full triathlon that he's doing that has like 13,000 feet of bike elevation. I think that's insane. But I wish you the best of luck. Again, awesome meeting you. I don't know. It's just really cool to meet people from the podcast. I put this thing together a couple years ago, never knowing where it was going to go. And it just seems like, between all the work we've done for charity and all the work, all the awesome people that I've met, all the support that you guys lent me, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really matters. It really means something. So let's call it a day for today. I know it's a super long podcast for a daily, but hopefully I make up for some of the lost episodes over the weekend. And remember, every day is an ordinary day. It takes you to make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.
Remember to like our video and subscribe to our channel.